Well, what's happening, Raider Nation? Welcome back to the Raider Critique. Now, this is your post-game review for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Oakland Raiders for Week 14 in the 2018 season. And boy, did we have a surprise and a treat set in store for all football fans who enjoyed sitting down and watching this game, because it came all the way down to the wire. So what I would like to do is I would like to go over the stats and really just kind of go check that out, even though the stats are not, they're relevant, but there is no way anybody could have ever predicted the way this game was going to end. So why don't we hop into the intro, and then we'll go ahead and hop over into the stats, and then we will go into the post-game review. Unbelievable. So I'd like to thank everybody for stopping back by the Raider Critique, and we're going to go ahead and go over the stats of yesterday's game. Now, I know that there's not really much of anything else that I can say that other people have not already, but hey, why not? We always go into the stats anyway, so I feel, we might as well go ahead and do that. Ben Roethlisberger went 25 of 29 for 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, Joshua Dobbs came in for an injured Ben Roethlisberger for about 3 series, and he went 4 of 9 for 24 yards and 1 interception. Now, Jalen Samuels, their rookie running back that I was honestly scared was going to run the ball all over us, didn't happen to do that. Instead, he had 11 carries for 28 yards, averaging 2.5 yards a carry. Joshua Dobbs, who came in for Roethlisberger, also ran 2 times for 15 yards, 7.5 yards a carry. Stephen Ridley was basically non-existent, and then Darius Hayward-Bay, looking like Darius Hayward-Bay, 1 carry for negative 7 yards. Now, here was our issue. We gave up a lot of receiving yards, and not to the receiver that you would have expected. We gave up 8 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns to Juju Smith-Schuster. One of those touchdowns being a beautiful fingertip and toe tap catch. Probably by far one of the best catches I've seen on a wide open wide receiver in the back of the end zone. Got to give him that, man. That was a hell of a reception he did. Now, even though Jalen Samuels didn't show up in the running game, he did show up in the passing game. He had 64 yards receiving on 7 receptions. Their tight ends, basically combined, they had 6 receptions for a little over 60 yards. And, we've always given up a lot of wide open passes down the middle to tight ends. So it was really no surprise that they were going to use Vance McDonald and Jesse James, but I'm just glad that we didn't give up hundreds of yards to those two. Let's go ahead and just hop over here to the Raiders, because who cares about what Pittsburgh did? Derek Carr did 25 of 34 for 322 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, our running backs weren't really all there yesterday, but they did the job. Doug Martin had 16 carries for 32 yards, 1 touchdown. His average per carry was 2 yards a carry. That's the Doug Martin I remember. Jalen Richard had 8 carries for 24 yards, and his average was 3 yards a carry. Now, our receivers actually stepped up as well. Jared Cook, this dude needs to go to the Pro Bowl, man. 7 receptions for 116 yards on 10 targets. Seth Roberts. Now, look, everybody knows I've been very critical about Seth Roberts. I thought Seth Roberts was overpaid. I'm sure a lot of us thought that, But he showed up yesterday, and he's been showing up as of lately. 5 receptions for 76 yards. One of those catches, man, being in double coverage down the middle of the field to set us up for the go-ahead touchdown. Seth Roberts, man, give yourself an applaud. I hope that we keep you, but please restructure your contract. Jordy Nelson even showed up with 6 receptions for 48 yards. Thank you, whoever was calling the plays, for setting this guy up and giving him the opportunity to get open and make plays. Because seeing him play this week and getting open, you could just tell there was something different about him from this week to last week. And I do believe still, to this day, that it's play calling. By far. Marcel Aitman had 3 receptions for 45 yards. What a beast, man. This dude showed up as well, catching passes in double coverage. Just like Derek Carrier, who had the go-ahead touchdown, by the way. 2 receptions for 29 yards. And then we round that off with 1 pass to Jalen Richard for 5 yards. And then Lee Smith getting his second touchdown in 2 games after not having a single touchdown reception in almost 2 years. Now, I did want to talk about this because this is a part of the point of what I'm going to be trying to make on this video. Now, when this fumble happened with Derek Carr, I didn't believe it was a fumble. After watching it in real time and seeing how everything played out, there was no way in my mind at that time that I thought that it was a fumble. Not even a smidgen of me wanted to believe it was a fumble, because even after watching the replays, and I've seen the replay at least a dozen times, a couple times during the game, a couple times on this page while I've been sitting here doing these videos and messing up left and right. So like this is probably like the 4th time you've seen me do this. So I've been sitting here looking at this footage over here, and it's normally over here on this side. But that was a fumble. And it took me a while to actually let that sink in, that Derek Carr, when he was throwing the ball actually slipped out of his hand before his arm would move forward, which constitutes as a fumble, even though the ball was moving forward when it was fumbled. Now, what I don't understand, though, is how this happens. They call it one way for one team, and then they call it the complete opposite way for the other team, because it happened to Dobbs, too. And that just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So now that we've gone over the stats, and we basically kind of see what has actually happened over there. As a matter of fact, let's switch back over there right quick, because we didn't go over the team stats. And team stats are actually quite important. So I'm sorry about that, guys. Like I said, I've shot this at least 6 times, so don't even know what kind of footage I've got going on right now. But Pittsburgh's total yards was 340. Our total yards was 354. Their passing yards was 300. Ours was 299. Pittsburgh had 40 rushing yards while we had 55, so neither one of our rushing games for either team decided to show up today. Their average yards per play was 5.9 yards. Our average yards per play was 5.6. Now, of course, we know the score, and then the fumbles lost. We lost a fumble, of course, by Derek Carr, and then they threw an interception, so that balances out the turnovers. This is always going to be an issue. We got 1 sack, and then we gave up 4. Derek Carr is not going to be able to set his feet and throw the ball if he is always having to look out for Brandon Parker missing a block. Their third down efficiency was 54%. Ours was 33%. And we dominated in the time of possession with 32 minutes and 36 seconds. Now, you remember how we were talking about those referees and that fumble and how they called it one way, but then when it happened to Pittsburgh, they called it the other? Look at the penalties. They had 2 penalties compared to our 13. Now, you want to talk about one-sided. That is absolutely one-sided. And when you come to think about it, not only did we have to beat the shitty field conditions, we had to beat the Steelers, and we also had to beat the referees just to be able to come out on top of this game 24-21. The referees were throwing flags at us left and right. They were missing calls for the Steelers all day long, but they made sure they hit us with every single solitary flag they could. I mean, this was absolutely outrageous watching this game on how it panned out, but it ended exactly the way it should have, with the kicker slipping after they just pulled off this miraculous hook and ladder play that got them all the way down into field goal range to tie the game. The kicker slips, falls, game over, Raiders win. That's what I'm talking about. This game went all the way down to the wire, and couldn't anybody have drawn it up better than this? So I want to say this was a hell of a win. We did get lucky to a certain extent, but then again, I'll take it, whatever win we can get, because it's already in the slogan, just win, baby, because that's what we got to do. We just got to win. It doesn't matter about the draft picks right now, for the simple fact we've already got a top 5 pick, and we've got 2 more in the first round that we're going to have to pick up later on. So it's best to actually kind of build the morale of the team, get your fans excited about the base that you've got going on and the foundation you've got going on, to where we can look forward to the future. Which, speaking of looking forward to the future, we did get some news after the game. And see, this was actually posted. I actually had this screenshot made as soon as I heard about it. It was right before the game with the Steelers. And I was going to make this a talking point on this show about whether Reggie, because they're saying he was going. And, first thing I thought of was, all right, they did the same thing with Jordy Nelson. They talked all that crap, said he was going to retire. Jordy Nelson wound up coming back, and of course he's still playing with us today. So I was like, okay, whatever, man, fake news, whatever. Well, obviously that wasn't the case, because when morning came, this dropped right on my damn dashboard that the Raiders have released Reggie McKenzi as general manager. Now, a lot of people have mixed feelings about this. A lot of people feel one way. Some of us feel another. Okay? The only thing I can honestly do here is just basically give my opinion about the situation on how everything wound up going. Now, I don't believe Reggie McKenzi was all that bad. All right? We got a lot of people out there who will talk smack, especially in the rooms, talk about how Reggie McKenzi needs to go, that he's had 50 draft picks, and out of that total 50, only 10 are still in the league, that are still relevant. What a lot of people don't understand is, it's almost like they don't remember that before Reggie McKenzi, we didn't have a general manager. All right? We didn't even know what a general manager was. For the simple fact, Al Davis was our general manager. All right? When it came to the draft, we already knew what we were going to do, because Al Davis was our general manager. Al Davis had yes men in there for his scouts, for his people that he had going and taking a look at all of these prospects. Before Reggie McKenzi, we already knew that we were going to draft speed with our first pick. When Reggie came, all that changed. Okay? We started making sensible draft picks, picking up people not due to their speed, but because of their football IQ. See, a lot of people tend to forget that even though that there's only 10 of those players in the NFL right now that are still playing under NFL contracts that were drafted by Reggie McKenzi, were studs. I'm not even going to mention the names, but we did pick a certain number 52 over Javidon Clowney. And that was not a bad pick. That was not a bad pick at all. As a matter of fact, I think Reggie McKenzie is a stellar numbers guy. There was things that, see, that's another thing that a lot of the people don't understand either, is that when it came down to it, when Al Davis was our general manager, we had money problems. We had huge money problems. We didn't even know if we were going to be able to pay for a stadium the next year, to be able to rent and lease O.co. We were on a year-to-year lease, basically, with O.co. And we didn't know where the money was going to come from. Al had no idea what he was going to do. When Al passed away and Reggie took over, Reggie balanced this salary cap. He made the organization worth something. He crunched numbers and made it to where we could pick up all these draft picks. Don't you guys remember back in 2015 and 2016 when everybody got their bonuses? We signed people like Cordell Patterson. It's because we had the money to do so. And Reggie McKenzie was well supported and well respected throughout the league to where players did want to come and play for the Raiders. Reggie McKenzie was not all bad. But what we do have to understand is that in the tenure that he has been with us the past, 4 or 5 years, we've only got one winning season. The numbers are everything. If you're not producing, then it's not happening. But you can't really fault the guy. It was his first time as a general manager. And also, it's the Raiders' first time ever having a general manager. So the Raiders are learning right there with Reggie McKenzie. Right there at first. They're learning how to handle having a general manager, and Reggie McKenzie is learning how to be a general manager. So it can't really all be faulted. It is a victim of circumstance. Numbers don't lie, and this is a productions game. No production, no job. But I would like to be at least one of the first to say and publicly say and come out here on a public platform and say, I appreciate you, Reggie McKenzie. You will always be a Raider. I want to thank you for fixing our money problems and making this organization relevant when it came to having salary and having the money and wanting to build a winning culture. Without you, we would probably still be in the dumps and not being able to afford free agents. I applaud you, Reggie McKenzie. I think it's a shame that we let you go too early, in my opinion. But there's really nothing that we can do. When it's time to move on, it's time to move on. Nobody expected Del Rio to get fired. When Del Rio got fired, man, the writing was on the wall. We already knew this was going to happen. It's not like this came out of left field. It wasn't like Dominic Rogers-Cromartie retiring in the middle of the season kind of ordeal. The writing was on the wall. We knew what was going to happen. We were talking about it in off-season. That now that Del Rio's gone, if we don't produce this year, who else do you think's going to go? And I guarantee 75% of us were in those damn rooms going, Reggie will be the next one on the chopping block. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So I do want to commend Reggie, man. You'll always be a Raider to me. You'll always be a Raider for life as far as I'm concerned. You did a hell of a deed for this organization, and you brought us out the slumps that we used to be in. Now, it's just up to John Gruden to turn this record around and get us back into the playoffs. Only time will tell if this move has actually been a good move or not. We will find out by the draft. We'll see who he picks up. We will see if this was a good move. But until then, I'm not going to bash on the move. I'm just going to feel sad that people's lives have got to change, and Reggie's going to go on and go with future, he's going to move on with future endeavors in his life, and, you know, hey, the only thing I can do is wish him well. You know? It's really all I can do. So anyway, this has been another episode of the Raider Critique. I'm going to go ahead and sign on out of here. And I just want to let you guys know, you guys already do know, we've only got 3 weeks left in the season. We got the Bengals next, and I know we've got Denver, and then we've got Kansas City again. So maybe, just maybe, we can actually end on a good note, maybe possibly finish 6-10, 5-11. We'll see how it works out. But if there's any more games that we can win this year, and we've already shown that we can compete, we can win all of them. We can win all of them. We've already beaten Pittsburgh, and we kept up with Kansas City once. And I'm pretty sure Kansas City's not going to want to start their starters week 16 or week 17, whichever week we play them. Because they're getting ready, they're thinking playoffs. They ain't going to want to sit there. They're not going to want to start their starters. They're not going to want to do that. So I'm thinking that we can actually sweep these last 3 games. And I think that is absolutely the best thing to do to fix the morale and help people understand that we are not here to tank. We're just rebuilding. And once we get done rebuilding, we're coming back to win. And we're going to whip everybody's ass and take everybody's name later. This is the Raider Critique, man. I'm signing out of here. Peace.